that I just programmed my brain into not being open anymore. I couldn't share outside of the house, or I couldn't open up to my family. I felt the way how actions and what I did to make things okay for him, and it just wasn't for me. I felt embarrassed. I felt about what was happening and why it was happening to me. Like, you were raising, to me, a strong Black woman. I never felt like that in these situations. So this is my way of not being so openly limited, if that makes sense. I'm being openly limited for myself. Welcome back to another episode of I'm Just Sharing with Shaunda. I am Shaunda. Hey guys, hey, happy Thursday. I hope you're doing good. I'm doing great. I got some news to share at the end of the episode. Hope you tune into the end. Other thing is if you're on YouTube, I'm working with the space. I'm working with the space. So give me some tips, give me support, what you likes, don't likes, whatever, what I could do, leave it in the comments. Just let me know. But I felt too confined in the corner in my previous episode. And I feel like now I'm working the space. So I feel like this is giving something. This is giving something. I'm very happy. But I can just talk about what I want to talk about right now. And I just felt that I should share how I became a private person, how I was private, and how I'm learning to not be so private. And it just leads into all of this. I'm just sharing with Shaunda and the name and my YouTube page. But previous, long time ago, young, dumb, and naive, being in a relationship and not putting my feelings or how I felt first, and putting someone else in front of me first before myself, and just making sure that person was okay. Very big hindrance. I want to say when it was good stuff I could share in the house, outside of the house, but when it's all the bad stuff, it came to not sharing. So I want to say not sharing with my family. So I want to say with starting off our first incident, I know that I was, being open before. I opened up to my sisters and said what was going on. And I believe I was having a conversation with him where later on, he found out that I talked to my sister about it. And I'm like, it's my sister. I'm venting to her and I just need to share my feelings. It's my sister. And he was just like, I'm just a very private person. I don't like, my business out there. You didn't say my business out there. I want to say later on down the road in the manipulation part, after he saw that he had me, it's called our business. So I just felt like I couldn't share our business outside of the household. And with it, it's just so crazy putting somebody else first, that I just programmed my brain into not being open anymore, not sharing anymore, especially with things that were going on in the house. I couldn't share outside of the house, so I couldn't open up to my family. I barely had friends to talk to here and there, and any time that I vented, it was just always to the person that was in the house, which was my friend, who was also a roommate at the time with his boyfriend in the house, that we bonded. We were going through the same thing together. We were going through a hard time at the same time in our relationships, but just two different situations. And with that, I just felt that I could express to him. That was also a problem too. When my ex found out, you share with him, I'm like, I don't see why I can't. He's in the house and he knows what's going on. Why not share with him? He knows what's going on. He's not going to tell anybody outside of this. So what? It was a whole thing. But from there, with not being so open anymore, I just didn't open up to my family. So when it was certain things that I remember having my sisters invited me over, and it was something like a intervention to check on me and, just to see how I was. I'm like, I'm okay. And it was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, everything's fine, everything's fine. And my sister was like, well, because, he told me that, you are insecure. You started going through his phone. You started being on his back and asking, questions and just all over him. Like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, there are certain like things that I am doing, but just know that there's like a cause and effect that stuff like is happening like this. And I want to say the way how the questioning was, I felt that it wasn't on my side. Like, it is crazy because like in the beginning, like, Shaunda, are you okay? It's them caring. But I was too passive, like seeming not to be attacked, but it just seemed like it sounded like they weren't on my side. So I was just like, I'm not going to say much. Just know that there was something that happened and I'm working on it. And this is just the way how I'm like dealing with stuff, the way how I am right now. And they're like, okay, like, it's crazy how like you just pass that one thing. Like, my family cares about me, but I'm too worried about like these questions. So it was like a whole thing. So I know that with going back to him that night and just saying like, so I went to my family's house. They said that you told them that I am going through your phone and I'm insecure. And he was like, well, yeah. And I'm just like, but did you tell them that you cheated? Like, did you say that? And he's like, I don't know why that you would just go around and like say that to their family. That's none of their business. I'm like, but you telling them that I'm just insecure, that's none of their business, right? That's our business. I don't want them to know that. Like, it was just a whole thing that it just, the way how the brain works, the way how actions and what I did to make things okay for him. And it just wasn't for me. So from there, like when things got worse, when we like broke up and stuff, I moved back to my mom's house. And I want to say Stacy was like the first person to know what was going on that I like opened up to the first time. Not too much, but it was like later on when my family like in spurts started to know like what was going on in the house, when I finally started to open up after I was out of the relationship, after I was out of the house and stuff like that. And with them just learning that, it was just slowly, putting pieces together for them. And, I think my mom asked me before about like, why didn't you open up the first time? I was like, I felt embarrassed. I felt, just mostly embarrassed about like what was happening and why it was happening to me. Like, you were raising to me a strong Black woman, and I'm not that. I never felt like that in these situations. I didn't know how to handle it, and I just don't feel like that person, And that was just like a really big thing to say to her at that time and everything. So yeah, slowly getting away from that, I moved away, and I went to Jessica's and Trevor's house. And at that time, again, at that time when I was in their house, like 2 years in the house, I was still like opening up in spurts about what was going on and what happened and stuff. So with that, I feel that I don't get called still about like with certain things that happens on their side, like my sister's side, whatever was going on. I'm not the first person to be called. I'm probably like the last one to know, because I still feel like they still feel like I'm private. Like, that's just Shaunda. Like, she's really not gonna be here. She's really not gonna be about that. That like that stuff. That's how like I feel. So it just makes me not want to keep being this person. Like, I want to have time. I want to keep doing what I need to do and to still be around and have time for them and open up to them, right? So I think that just leads me to now and how I'm learning to open up. And my YouTube page, my podcast, has a lot to do with it. I have a podcast called I'm Just Sharing with Shaunda. I don't want to be so private anymore. I feel like I definitely had a voice to be heard, that somebody can relate. And yes, I'm killing two birds with one stone. I don't really feel bad about my family not knowing first about what's going on, because in a way they are the ones to know first, either on this or way before. It's dependent on what the situation is and talking to them first before I'm on here. But I feel like with them learning on here, on my podcast, on YouTube, you know, that they see me and just see how I'm like processing my emotions, that are just like, this is how I feel. And then we end up talking about it, you know? And I just feel like, who whipped to hear my problems? Well, you got your own. So yeah, but I want to make it fun and interesting to talk about like how I'm navigating, how I'm maneuvering stuff. So that's the whole thing. So that led me to journaling. I tried journaling in the beginning when I was at Jessica and Trevor's house. I wasn't journaling before that, but in Jessica and Trevor's house, I just felt that I needed to journal because I also needed to express some type of feelings. I didn't end up journaling because I just didn't feel connected at the time and still figuring out things in my dating life at the time, who I was talking to at the time. I just felt like I was all over the place and whatnot. So I just did not journal at all. But I just recently started to journal, it's like yesterday, the day before yesterday, journaling and just how I feel. And I feel like with influencers, people who like journal or whatever, and just seeing the little small clip that they do, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they're writing. And I would sometimes pause the video to see what they're writing on their page, because I'm like, I just need to know what it is. But I understand with like not sharing a journal because it is very personal. It's like a manifesting stage too, but it's also like you putting your feelings on paper, you know, that it's never really shared, that it's just a personal thing. I want to have this in moments, but I don't mind sharing what I'm writing in my journal. So I'm very happy about it, actually. So I was just going to break down what I wrote on October 4th, my first time doing it. At 9:12 p.m. Oh yeah, I watched the Kardashians and I got this idea from them. I just like the Kardashians, no judgment here, okay? But they do a peak and a pit of the day. What's their peak of the day and the pit of the day of just like either a trip, an event, or just the day alone, you know? So that's what I did. So peak, hanging out with Shaunda at the Avenue was fun. I love walking around with her. We just talk about hair, shoes, clothes, food, financials, relationships, complicated ones. I find it crazy how we are navigating our relationships separately at the same time. Me and my singleness and her dealing with Chase is on the way, is the only way I can put it. We are so twins. I just found that to be really, really interesting. Timing stuff. But we are twins. Pit, feeling like I'm failing or a failure, knowing that I'm struggling, no money and bills not paid. Shaunda told me I'm not failing. And then at the bottom of this, I'll also give the reason why I know I'm not failing. That's the big news at the end. But at the end of this too, I put like what I'm grateful for. And I say, I'm grateful for working my ass off and trying. That's all I've been asking myself to do was try. And I also have like a letter to give to neighbors soon. That's going to be like in the next episode of like what that letter is. But I didn't mind sharing this, and I will be doing this often because I find it very interesting on like reflected on my feelings, my family having an input on it, or you guys having an input on it. I really love to hear. So this is my way of not being so openly limited, if that makes sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, Shaunda, you were openly limited when he told you that, so it's still the same thing. But I would just hope that like you understand that it's that I'm being openly limited for myself and not somebody else who just didn't think of me, and I was putting myself first for them. I'm doing this for myself, so I find it very cool that I get to open like this and talk about it later with family or friends when they listen in. Yes. So yeah, big news. The big news is that I am finally, week is my last week at the company that I'm working with. And after 6 years, I am doing something different, y'all. I'm super excited to talk about it in my next episode. That will be tea, that will be juice for my next episode, so I'm hoping that everybody tunes into it. Please remember to rate, like, comment, and subscribe to my Apple, Spotify, and YouTube page. Please DM, comment what you thought about this episode. If you love to share your experience or anything with me, you can email me at imjustsharingpod@gmail.com. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of I'm Just Sharing with Shaunda. I will see you in the next one. Bye.